Hello, David. Thank you for being here today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, could you introduce yourself to the viewers and talk a little bit about your career?
My name is David Wolfin. I'm President, CEO, and a Director of Avino Silver and Gold Mines Limited. It's a long history. My father founded the company in 1968. He was a successful stockbroker and mining financier, and he was introduced to a wealthy Mexican man that invited him to come to Mexico to send a geologist to look for mines that closed around the time of the revolution in the early 1900s. So we got involved. We found this project. We formed a partnership. We built the mine in 1974. We ran it for 27 years. It closed during the first tech bubble in 2000 because metal prices dropped. And I worked in the mine as a teenager in the 80s. So I learned the business from the ground up. In the 90s, I worked in the brokerage industry. I worked on the floor of the Vancouver Stock Exchange for 2 different brokerage houses and up in their offices. After that, learning the world of finance, and then joining my father in the mid 90s. So after the mine closed in 2001, I approached him and I said, we should buy the other half of the mine because we only own 49% of the Mexican subsidiary that owned 100% of the mine, because there was no NAFTA in 1968. So at this time, foreign ownership could go to 100%. So I was appointed president in mid 2000s and negotiated to buy the other half of the company, and that happened in 2006. And the rest is history. We reassembled the team. We put it all back into production. And been operating for over a decade since.
How would you say that Avino stands out from its other junior silver producing peers?
Well, longevity, 56 years in business. So what does that afford us? 100% Mexican labor force. Not many companies can say they have 100%, right up to the chief operating officer. And so because we've been there so long, the mine's been there for hundreds of years. It was the very first mine discovered in the state of Durango by Captain Ibarra of Cortez's army. Most people's reaction is there can't be anything left after all these years, but humans don't have X-ray vision, so there's a lot of potential. But the reason why I tell you that is infrastructure. So over hundreds of years on and off mining, different mines on our property. There's dozens of mines, little mom and pop artisanal mines on our property. So infrastructure built up around the mine, villages and towns. People could walk to work. That's pretty unique for a mine. Usually they're found in remote areas, but there's probably 20 to 30,000 people within a 30 to 40 kilometer radius.
Let's talk about the third quarter, the results that you just released. Could you summarize the results of the third quarter, really summarize the quarter for Avino?
Sure. Our revenue was 14.6 million. Record quarterly gross profit, 5.7 million. Mine operating cash flows before tax is 6.7 million. Net income, 1.2 million, or a penny a share. Adjusted earnings of 5 million, or 4 cents a share. Cash on hand was 7.8 million at September 30th, but subsequently, we had in October probably a record month. So we're now at around 18 or 20 million cash in the bank. And working capital at the end of the quarter was 15.9, but it's like 25 or 30 now. And so for the Q3, we had free cash flow of $2.3 million. Not bad for a single asset company.
So how are you tracking to meet the guidance for this year?
Good. In between 2.5 to 2.8 million ounces of silver equivalent. We're transitioning. The mine sequencing is going up in the mine, and so we're going to be in a higher grade area for silver and gold. So we're excited about that. We're optimistic about Q4.
How much silver equivalent ounces have you produced so far this year?
So far, probably about 2 million or so.
So then 2.5 million should be in reach.
Oh yeah, I think we'll be in the middle of the range. It depends, on factors, many factors, grade, mine sequencing, metal prices, the ground that we're mining. Depends if it's good or bad or whatever.
So thanks for being here today, Nathan.
Thanks for having me.
So could you introduce yourself to viewers and tell us about your career?
So my name is Nathan Harte. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Avino. I've been with the group almost 8 years, and in this position coming up on 5. My background is I worked for one of the big 4 financial accounting firms. I worked for Deloitte for a number of years prior to that, mostly concentrated in mining. Did a lot of travel working with clients all over the US, Mexico, Canada. Went to West Africa a number of times on some mine site visits. So I speak a couple of languages, so that helped with that process and gave me some opportunity to travel a bit more than some of my peers, which is fantastic.
So could you summarize the quarter from a financial standpoint and give an update on Avino's financial position?
Sure thing. Starting from the top, free cash flow positive. We had just shy of $2.5 million in free cash flow generated, which is pretty significant for the Avino mine. As a single asset producer, looking to bring other mines online in the coming quarters and years. Revenues were just shy of 15 million. Our mine operating income was around 6 million, 5.7, and then just shy of 7 million on a cash basis. So that left us with a pretty healthy margin, around 45% at the mine level. Costs were improved from Q2, about $15 cash costs, and then just around $22 all in sustaining cash costs. Again, room for improvement, especially with the weakening of the Mexican peso. I think we can do better. And then on the balance sheet side, cash was just shy of 8 million at the end of the quarter and around 16 million in working capital. That has increased subsequently. We did raise a bit of money off our ATM at around $1.40 per share. So our cash balance now is, after generating cash flow as well as the ATM, we're up to about 17 or 18 million in cash.
17 or 18 million in working capital or actual cash?
Cash. So probably 25 million. And yeah, we had a very strong, we had a lot of inventory at September 30th and concentrate inventory. So we sold quite a bit of that in October. Just the way our shipments line up and timing, we had very strong September production. So sitting in inventory at the end of the quarter and then subsequently sold in October. So probably had our highest monthly sales on record in October. So things are shaping up for a good Q4. Obviously, a bit early to talk about that, but yeah, we're looking pretty positive for Q4 and our balance sheet at the end of the year.
What quarterly G&A should we expect for next year, ballpark?
I think probably similar levels. I think we had a couple ups and downs. I think we've averaged around between 1.3 and 1.5 million per quarter on a cash basis, not including any equity compensation, and that covers the whole company. So it's about, I think it's just shy of 10% of our net revenue.
But you have an ATM program, as you said, in place. How are you using it, and how do you intend to use it going forward? And also, how have you used it so far this year?
So we had to use it in Q1 a little bit. Q2 we used it as our price was improving, and we were a bit more unsure of where the rally was going. Q3 we didn't really use it at all, just no need, and our share price had kind of leveled off. And then in October, we did use it a little bit more as our price went up to kind of that $1.40, $1.50 US range, so around $2 Canadian. And we used that with the thinking in mind of, we took all of our exploration and development off the table in our budgeting process last year, and we want to reintroduce that and look at further opportunities at Avino and as well even La Preciosa, and just ensure that the company's set up for all of its development goals and regional exploration goals. So we issued 4 million shares in October and haven't touched it and don't really plan to use it unless we get up to significantly higher levels again till the end of the year and into next year. Well, we feel like we're happy with our balance sheet.
So what do you say significantly higher? $2, $1.7 US, or what's?
Yeah, in that range. Yeah, I don't think we think there's a lot of legs left on our share price to go even higher. Yeah, we still are undervalued even compared to a lot of our junior peers and then the mid tiers. But we're pretty happy with where our balance sheet is now, and unless there's a significant, accretive move we can make, I don't think we'll use our ATM for the balance of the year.
How many shares do you now have outstanding?
Outstanding is about 140 million, and then fully diluted is right around 150. And there's no warrants outstanding. That's options and RSUs. I think it might actually be less than 150 now. I think the diluted number came down. We did have a number of exercises.
And how many shares have you total did you issue in this year?
Year to date, I think it's around 9 million. So call it 5 or 6% dilution. But given the material improvements to our balance sheet and what some of the capital raises our peers have had to do, we feel it was pretty prudent and a good efficient use of capital.
So what royalties are there on the Avino mine and La Preciosa?
So the Avino mine has on the specific where we're mining right now, the ET core claims, where the underground is developed, is a 3.5% royalty NSR. That's to a private family. It's been that goes back to the early 2010s, I believe, and still in place. And then La Preciosa has a 1.25 NSR on the Gloria and Abundancia claims, and then a 2% GSR, I think gross returns royalty, on the Martha vein, because that was not our priority initially on acquisition.
Precious metal prices are now significantly higher than a year ago. What's your view on hedging, both physical contracts and with puts? I know you don't have any hedges now, but...
No, we're fully exposed to the upside. We don't hedge. If we were a much larger company, we could do that, but no, all our shareholders want to be unhedged, and we're able to do that. I mean, we've got a clean balance sheet. We don't need to. And so we believe metal prices are going to remain strong, if not go higher. I'm very bullish on silver. The future. I mean, demand is growing with the solar panels, and who knows, Samsung's new solid state battery. I mean, we've been in business with Samsung for almost 10 years, and they're looking for more raw materials. Demand is growing.
And in terms of mine sequencing, I mean, we have so far this year seen the copper grade, going up 0.58% in last quarter. But now in Q4, we should see that go down while gold and silver grades go up. Is that correct?
Yeah, more or less.
So there's no trend that to see, rising copper grades or similar copper grades that we saw in Q3 in next year?
Next year, it depends on mine sequencing. If we are working on our budgets for next year right now, so it's hard to say exactly with certainty, but we are planning to ramp down below the bottom developed area of the mine, level 17, and it does get higher in copper. That was where we hit that fantastic intercept over a year ago, 57 meters of 300 grams silver equivalent, and then there was 37 meters of 400 grams, and then there was 3.4 meters of 3 or 4 kilograms. So we're excited about the future of the Avino mine. But the real exciting thing is La Preciosa. The silver equivalent grade is double what we're mining now. So
if you just talk about the Elena Tolosa or the Avino operation, silver and copper recoveries are improving. What silver and copper recovery rates should we expect going forward?
With higher grades, higher recovery rates.
Okay, so for silver around sort of 89, 88%.
Plus we've been doing some automation work in the mill. We've had suppliers there helping us try to perfect it. If we can eke out a percentage or two, that it makes a big difference. So we're always trying to fine tune and get higher recovery rates.
How's the mining going at Elena Tolosa? I mean, how many tons per day did you average in Q3?
How many tons per day? Over 2,000, probably 2,200. It depends. It's hard rock. It's very abrasive. So between 2,000 and 2,200 tons per day. But when we get to La Preciosa, that's quartz veins. That goes to the mill like butter. So usually we can exceed the nameplate capacity. So we're very excited about that. But if you look at, the cost per ton, we're crushing our peer groups. I mean, Q3 was $48.61 a ton cash cost. Year to date is $55.68 for an underground mine. That's pretty amazing. And in all-in sustaining for the quarter was $72.15, and then year to date $78.46. No underground mine is mining at these costs, and the reason why is because it's the mineralized system. It's a stockwork system. It's very robust. It's 30 to 50 meters wide and 500 meters of strike length. So we're long hole sublevel caving, which is a cheap form of mining. So we're very fortunate to have this type of deposit.
And so tons milled were up in Q3 from compared to a little over 1,600 last quarter, and in Q3 you came up to 1,720 tons per day. So what efforts are you now undertaking to further increase it further and get closer to nameplate capacity, which is actually 2,500 tons per day?
Yeah, so it is 2,500 tons per day. We do operate on a 6 out of 7 days. We do, because the mill and just personnel, we do operate 6 out of 7 days. So that 2,500 tons per day really, I guess, would cap out probably around 2,200 or 2,100. I guess 2,150, give or take. We'll say that. So far in October, we have been at 2,500 tons per day on a 6 days per week basis. So we're hoping for that to continue into November and then into December as well too. Our goal is probably is to try and get to 2,000 tons per day. Given we generally schedule an additional maintenance day in each month, and then December's got a couple of holidays in there too they're pretty significant, especially in Mexico. So the goal is to be around 2,000 tons per day if you average it over 7 days.
Do you add some color to why it's on Sunday? Or
it's always been that way at Avino historically, and we're, as we look at La Preciosa and adding more personnel, we will potentially look to change that. But it just goes back to the history of Avino, and it would be a change. It would be a change in the workforce mindset, and I think as of right now, we would prefer it the way it is, and it does allow for maintenance because the Avino material is quite hard on the mill. It's very abrasive. We have to do a lot of maintenance work on that Sunday.
Yeah, if you're looking into next year, what sort of average throughput rate is reasonable to assume conservatively?
I would say 2,500 tons per day, 6 days a week. That's so that you averages out to around 2,100 or 2,200 tons per day. We will be targeting probably about 775,000 tons on the year, give or take. So that'd be around 2,100, 2,200. Yeah, we're just finalizing our plans for next year. Again, we will look at ways to see if we can get up to 7 days a week, but there is some concerns about mill availability as well. And we do like having that day for maintenance.
Your all-in sustaining cost per silver equivalent ounce was $22 in Q3. So with and without La Preciosa, and I would like you to answer both scenarios, what AISC do you expect to see going forward? Talk next year.
Sure thing. So we were hopeful to get under $20 on just the Avino mine basis. La Preciosa is a bit tough to put cost guidance on right now because of just we're going to be in, if we get the permit still that we hope by the end of the year, we think that would be the first half of the year would be in development. It's 4 to 6 months essentially to get to the first production phase, and then we can start, production mining. So we'll be developing in ore, but to put guidance and cost estimates on that is difficult. I think once we get into production, the goal is that our consolidated all-in cost comes down to around the $16 to $18 range between both. That assumes, a specific peso to USD rate. That assumes a number of other things, and inflation being where it is. But as of now, that's the target for, by the end of 25 is to get under 20 for sure. And then looking at 26 and 27, we would be in that $16 to $18 range.
Could you remind everyone of the initial capital to get down to the La Gloria vein, and also the total capital cost, if you could, a sustaining capital cost for next year if you start La Preciosa development in January?
Yeah, so we had budgeted about $4 million for La Preciosa at the beginning of the year, with the expectation and hope that we would have the permit midway through the year and have everything done. So we've got the environmental permits dealt with. It's just the military has to come do an inspection of our explosives building. That could be next week. That could be a month from now. Unfortunately, that one's a bit more out of our control. But assuming that we get the green light by the end of the year and can start development, say January 1st, we'd be budgeting about $3 to $4 million for the first 6 months for development, and then it would be more so switching to OpEx as we do production mining, and maybe another couple million of sustaining capital or development capital at La Preciosa. So that's just at La Preciosa. With Avino, we're looking at all scenarios now. There will be some mine development at Avino, but nothing over, $1 million or $2 million. And then we're looking at some exploration, especially given how we took it off the table for 2024. And we'd like to put that back on and look at some key targets in the area.
But so in other words, you will be able to completely self-fund La Preciosa.
100%. Yeah, especially now. It was probably on the edge prior to the increase in metal prices. But now, obviously, even at $30 silver and $2,500 gold, we feel very confident that would not be an issue as well too. So we've got a strengthened balance sheet, and as well, we're generating cash flow.
Let's just talk about the permitting process first. So where are you now with receiving this? It's not really a complete EIS, right? Environmental impact assessment.
So it is, no, you still have to do a complete assessment, and that's done. That's been completed, signed off, everything. Like, there are no issues with that. What we're waiting for is the explosives permit to be approved so that we can start development. That is required, because just the Mexican army handles all the explosives in Mexico, and given security concerns in some other states, as a federal entity, it's pretty stringent to get an explosives permit. Even myself and David had to send fingerprints and criminal background checks and everything down to Durango. Then it gets submitted to Mexico City, and it's a lot more rigorous than it used to be, because we've gone through this process with Avino, but it was a number of years ago. And so some of the requirements just changed. So we've adjusted as such. And so it did take a little bit longer, but now all we are waiting on is the inspection of the actual explosives building.
Because usually it takes 60 days, right?
We're still, I think, within so it's 60 days from submission. So the submission itself, we're still within the 60-day window because we had to get all the documents together and get all the legal representatives to get criminal checks, et cetera, et cetera. So we are still well within that 60-day window. So we're hoping that the military follows that timeline as well.
So you're quite comfortable that you will receive it before the end of the year?
I would say, 51%. I think we feel good. Our team is telling us we'll get it by the end of the year. I'm not on the ground, so I can't guarantee that as well too. But if our team says they're going to get it, then we believe them.
That's for simplicity's sake that you receive it in the beginning of January. explain to me, when will it start development? Could you explain the timeline for that? And also, once you actually get in, or what's the ramp up schedule looking like?
Yeah, so the plan we'd put together, our 5-year plan, was we'd put that together prior to the rally and our strength and balance sheet. So under that plan, we're expected to produce, I think it's around 600 to 700,000 ounces, silver equivalent ounces next year from La Preciosa. It would be coming from about, I think, around 75,000 tons, give or take. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to double check my numbers for sure. But and that would be production mining essentially for the last 6 months of the year, starting at about just a couple hundred tons per day. But we're trying to get up to 500 tons per day by the end of 2025, assuming all the timeline lines up, because that would fill our smaller circuits at Avino, Circuit 1 and Circuit 2. And that would leave the two larger circuits, which are about 1,000 or 1,100 tons per day, to run Avino ET material. Because it is lower grade, there's more economies of scale that needs to be realized there. Whereas at La Preciosa, the grade is, we're looking at about 350 grams silver for the first few years of mine life. So much significantly higher than Avino, even on a silver equivalent basis.
At 500 tons per day, what would that translate to in production numbers?
Yeah, so if you annualize it for the year, that would be about just, I think it was around over 1 million ounces. That would be the goal. Yeah, about close to 1 million ounces of silver equivalent, including the gold. And then Avino would contribute likely in the Circuit 3 and Circuit 4, just over 2 million ounces. I think we've guided or estimated in our 5-year plan that we'd be doing between about 2.8 to 3.5 million next year. So assuming we can get La Preciosa to line up, and we'll put out more detailed guidance early in the new year for sure, once things are more finalized. But that is the goal to hit that target we set.
2.8 and 3.5 million ounces of silver equivalents. How much of that is silver? Ballpark.
So La Preciosa should be about 90%. I think we get up to over 50% silver. It's close. I can't remember exactly, but I think we're in the low 50, around 50 to 55% silver. And then we'd have probably 15% gold and about 30% copper. That would be my, again, we're reviewing our 25 mine plan for Avino, starting next week, and finalizing that. And then the La Preciosa plan will be carried over as well.
So then, have you decided on your exploration plans for next year?
Not yet, but a lot of them were in place for this year that didn't get approved in the budget at the beginning of the year because there was no rally. And so our cash was limited. So we're heading down to Mexico in about a week, 8 or 9 days, to start the budgeting process. So the guys are really excited because a lot of the exploration plans that were put on hold are going into the budget for next year. So ramping below level 17, developing up at level 9, Guadalupe, La Preciosa, there's all kinds of areas where we're very excited to want to go and explore because we have high expectations on those areas.
The targets you just mentioned, are those drill ready, or is there more target generational work that needs to be done?
Below level 17 is a continuation of the drilling that we were doing in 2022, 2023, that paused this year. So we want to continue there. This year, what we did on those results, we followed the instructions of 2 world-renowned structural geologists, Jeff Hedenquist out of Ottawa and Tony Starling out of UK. And so what they recommended was a fluid inclusion study to update. You want to know where the boiling points are and where the mineral settled to model it. And so that's being finalized now. That'll go to them and it'll help them give us more ideas. But the obvious area is just to continue drilling below where we were. So, because it's a huge system that follows a strike or a fault. And so we'll just follow down there. So there's that area. Where else did I say? Guadalupe, on and off over the year. It's a parallel vein, I would say, 500 or 600 meters away from Avino to the north. And we've put in lots of holes, but it needs more infill drilling before we make a decision to go over there and mine it. And so that's always been on our radar. But other priorities have, surfaced when you don't have a lot of cash. Now we got more cash.
But what do you think the exploration budget for next year will end up being?
I couldn't tell you at this stage.
Okay, but it shouldn't be more than a few million US, right?
Oh, yeah, probably a few. It's not going to be huge. Our focus is getting La Preciosa up, continuing to shore up our balance sheet, build a war chest of cash, and as we get more comfortable having a lot of cash on hand, then we'll go do more exploration. I'm a firm believer of exploration. I mean, that property is amazing. There's two controlling faults that go in opposite directions, and in between are hundreds of veins. It's been mined on and off for 500 years. And so there's all kinds of veins we don't know much about. Just, we see some old workings there that artisanal miners hand mined it because they could see it with their eyes. But what's below it, we don't know. And we've never had a huge amount of money to really go after some of those things. It's always been trying to get cash flow to fund these things. So there's a lot of potential there, but it's not a simple thing. Geology, it's all evolution and erosion and fractures and fault make it very complex.
So could you summarize your ESG initiatives?
Well, we've been ESG centric probably since the beginning of the company. So we're in an area where they don't get a lot of love from the government. And so they look at us like the government. We're the number one employer there. So we look after the roads, we maintain roads around there, help them with water supplies. In the schools, we've helped them with electronics. We approached our number one trading partner, Samsung, and they have a large ESG budget. So we asked them to tap into it. So they graciously gave about 150 Galaxy tablets and 25 or 30 large flat screen TVs. And we went and gave them out at the schools. And but there's so many communities, there's so much need there. Hopefully it continues and they give us more because it's required there. But we help out in many ways with celebrations, with food donations. There's a huge list of items that we do. And we recently received the ESR award for the third consecutive year. And that's, basically putting a stamp on the company that we're an ethical company. And it's awarded by an independent board of philanthropists in Mexico. So we're quite proud of that.
So now, you have, speaking from Nathan, you just have 18 million US in cash and even more working capital. So how are you looking to deploy that excess cash?
Hey, we just got it. Give us a break. Everyone's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? The rally is still young. So we want to build it up. We want to be safe. We're a conservative group. We're not carrying much debt. It's just equipment debt. So we're going to be conservative with it. But our plans are to follow the 5-year growth strategy. That's a clear path to transformational growth is our tagline. So it's La Preciosa first, and then the oxide tailings. We want to get to 8 to 10 million ounces a year. And that plan was put together prior to the rally. So now people are like, well, can you compress the timeline? Potentially, we're looking at that now. It takes time. This is a complex business. And I think within a year or two, once we do a lot of these other exploration programs and drilling, we'll then bring in an outside engineering firm to do an optimization study, because potentially 8 to 10 million ounces a year could be light. We've got 76 million metric tons, 53 million measured and indicated, and 24 million inferred. So our processing plant can do between 700 and 750,000 tons annually. That's a century of mine life. So obviously, we're going to look to do more expansions along the way.
So then, where do you envision Avino silver and gold mines in a year from now?
In a year from now, well, we're in the final stages of getting the necessary approvals to start breaking ground at La Preciosa. We are hoping the military will go to site before the end of the year, and we can break ground within a week of getting the green light. We've got the jumbo and scoop tram ready to go. The surface buildings are all ready to go. Our staff are ready to go. The local town is ready to go. They want us to start hiring more people. So if we get the green light before the end of the year and we can break ground starting in January, it'll be 4 to 6 months where we could potentially be drawing fresh ore out of the underground at La Preciosa. The La Gloria and Abundancia veins are come not quite vertical, but come right to the surface. So the decline ramp we're going to put in only has to go 350 meters to intersect ore. That's 4 to 5 months to get in there. So we're excited about that. So potentially in the second half of next year, you could see results coming out of our mill. And we think there'll be a re-rating in the stock because our PNAV is about 0.6 and our peers are 1.1. So it's because there's no feasibility study on La Preciosa. So people want to see the results. Why is there no feasibility study? Because Coeur did it on an open pit mine. We're just going to go, we did our own internal mine plan with our own engineers to put in a simple tunnel and pull it out, extract it out that way. So the general public want to see the results of that. So that's what I'm hoping we can deliver in the second half of next year.